Okay, let's switch into La Liga, who, as we know, are one of our partners here at WFS Africa. They are long-term partners of World Football Summit overall in all of the events that we do. There's no doubt that there has been links between Spain and Africa for some time. For a start, they are practically neighbours. Ceuta, Melilla, they lie on the African continent, but they are part of Spain, so that's the first thing. The European mainland only 14 kilometres away from the northernmost point of Africa. It's often been an African flavour in Spain. I mentioned earlier some of the former players who've starred in Spain, but still African players making La Liga their home. You've got the likes of Youssef En-Nesyri at Sevilla, perhaps Gené at Getafe. He's one of the most underrated defenders, I would say. He's been very, very consistent over a number of seasons, and a brilliant bright spark in Samuel Chukwueze, who was a lightning-quick winger for Villarreal. So there are some talents there that are really making their name in La Liga. Now, the biggest thing that links Spain to this continent was, of course, the World Cup triumph of 12 years ago. Still, it lingers in the memory as a very, very special time. Spain was under pressure to deliver a World Cup, a first World Cup for that country, having won the Euros 2 years before, and they did live up to that expectation. So lots of connections here between La Liga and this continent. How are they maximising those connections? To cross the bridge to Africa, to build new audiences, to spread the word about what you're watching. As they like to say, it's not football, it's La Liga. Well, let's find out. Please welcome our next quartet of speakers, 3 speakers and a moderator. So, Managing Director of South Africa at La Liga, Marcos Pellegrin. International Development Manager at RCD Español, Sergi Martinez. Director at the Real Betis Academy in Zimbabwe, Gerald Sibanda. And your moderator, Director of My Football CV, Brighton Mlongo. Please welcome them. Thank you very much, guys. Great to see you. As you know, I'm a massive fan of Spanish football. And fair play to Español for being here. Sergio, I'm gonna be honest with you. I am a Valencia fan. I could have said Barça, I didn't. I'm a Valencia fan, so next time my job is to try and get someone from Valencia here as well. It's great to see Betis represented here too. Got a lot of fondness for Betis, as we all do. Mucho Betis, Locos de la Cabeza, and all of that. And Brighton, you know, looking forward to hearing you guide this conversation. I've known Marcos a long time, and I'm sure that we'll have lots of insights from all of the panels. So really looking forward to this one. Over to you, Brighton. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Greetings to everyone. Hola.
Hello.
How are you guys?
Very good.
No, you look so relaxed. I like that.
Thank
I like
you.
that.
Yeah, let's have fun.
Marcos, how are you, sir?
Good, and you?
Good, man. I mean, Marcos, obviously, for me, it's a great honor to be sitting amongst you guys. And the main important thing, obviously, as La Liga as well. Marcos, you are the director of La Liga in Africa. And obviously one of the founders as well for the World Summit as well. I mean, can we please give him a round of applause for that one, you know? Praise to God. Yeah, man. So, Marcos, I'll just get into it first with you. Why Africa? I mean, La Liga has been here for over 7 years. They came to our shores. So, why Africa?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Brighton and colleagues on the panel. I want to thank you, KCRN, for hosting us these days and bringing World Football Summit. They're doing much better since I left, so I'm very happy to see that finally they came to Africa. So also thank you to World Football Summit and all the team for making this possible.
Yeah.
And why Africa? For us, it was so obvious. Last season, we had 2.8 billion in audience all across the world, and there's only 50 million population country as Spain. Mm-hmm. So our fans are all over the place, and we felt when we started our internationalization process 7 years ago that we needed to be close to every fan.
Yeah.
And then Africa is the region in the world where you can feel football with the most passion. That's no discussion. And also, if you look at the figures, then you realize that, for example, in 2050, 1 out of 4 inhabitants in the world will be African. So it was a no-brainer for us to come and to deploy our team in the continent. And I think we were quite aggressive, like going to as many countries as possible. And I think it's paying off, because to be able to understand and talk to your fans in their language and understand how they want to consume your product, I think is massive for us.
Awesome. I mean, when we talk about obviously coming into our African shores, I'd like to bring you in on this one, Sergio Martinez, with regards to, as the international development director, when it comes to this, you thought Africa, how important was it for you guys to say you need to set that footprint in the African continent?
First of all, I would like to thank you, World Football Summit and Marcos, for giving us the opportunity to a humble club like us, historical but still humble club in Spain, to be here. So it's a pleasure. And answering your question, to make it short, I would say, like, why not? Because the continent organized exceptionally incredible World Cup in 2010, which bring back great memories for the Spanish people, I think. You are attracting more and more big events like this. Yeah. So I think that is the time that for Spain and for the clubs of La Liga and Espanyol itself to recognize all the contribution that Africa has made to football. For example, look how many players they have made all the way to the elite without having any support. So for a club like us, like player development is so important, I think that we have to be committed as well to helping this development, to make the way easier to the African people, to make the way, to make all the way to the elite. And due to the positive impact that football has in the society, doing this, I think that we will create a better society in the future.
Awesome. I mean, interesting enough, the gentleman on my right here, as opposed to me saying why you chose Africa, is one of the child of the soil, and in Gerald. So who is Gerald? And again, Gerald, at the end of the day, as opposed to Espanyol, you started from your own home country, Zimbabwe. So for Real Betis, how important was this as well to expand and create these relationships?
No, thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here. Firstly, when you mention Real Betis, you mentioned our sports agency, ASM, and you mentioned myself. There wouldn't be Real Betis or Gerald or ASM without the World Football Summit. So, in a short story, 2020, the World Football Summit was supposed to happen here in Durban. Okay. And the good thing is that we had already downloaded the application and started scheduling our meetings. So, of course, the World Football Summit got postponed, got cancelled, but I was already in communication with my colleague at Real Betis, and in that sense, during the lockdown, that is where we had to structure the deal, to structure what we want to do. So we had 3 months to actually enjoy connecting, getting to know each other, and finding common ground. Yes, but of course, Real Betis is coming to Africa, is coming to Zimbabwe. We are leading a fantastic project with the academy itself, and obviously commercially we are also growing the brand. But I think the space in Africa is very, very huge. I think everybody understands that our African footballers are very talented. We can see how many players are doing very well in Europe, how many players are winning the PFA Player of the Year from Africa, Riyad Mahrez, Mo Salah, you have great players like Mane. So what we are lacking in Africa, I think, is many pathways, easier pathways for the next generation. And obviously the world-class education that the European teams like Real Betis bring, like Espanyol bring. I think this is the education now that we need to give to our kids, because they are the next generation. So we have to make the right decisions to bring as many brands as possible to give those world-class opportunities to our youngsters. Yeah.
Talking about expansion, Marcos, I'll bring you in on this one. It's a huge continent with which he has alluded that it's blessed in abundance when it comes to talent. So how is the structuring of La Liga when it comes to the African continent? Because this is not an easy project. One would assume that it takes a whole lot. You're coming into a different environment, which is a different culture shock as well. So how do you then explain the structure within the continent?
Well, I'll be proud to say that I believe that we do have a dream team, because we got some of the best professionals within the industry, have depth knowledge and of what's sports industry in Africa. So we do have delegates in Morocco and Egypt, but also if you go to Sub-Saharan Africa, then we do have delegates in Ivory Coast, in Cameroon, in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Angola, plus the HQ that sits in Johannesburg in South Africa. Also, we do have very good professionals that are supporting the team, the Africa team from HQ, helping us to link the projects and so. So we are almost 20 professionals fully dedicated to work La Liga and to grow the fan base in Africa.
So as for now, for Espanyol, Seji, obviously it's a big space for everyone, right? But now the importance, especially for you as an international development manager, the importance now to create those platforms for the young structures. How are you planning to distribute or to set up structures within those development programs within the African continent, but most importantly, in the South African country?
Okay. I think that La Liga has shown us the path. So they are a great example how to grow here in the continent and especially here in the in South Africa. So the same that they did, we are going to employ a local agency because for Espanyol it's very important to understand the passion and the needs that the South African football fans have. So alongside with them, we are going to try to create content specifically for the fans here to make football content even more accessible for all the fans. Because already in Spain, we are a team that are very well recognized for being a close team, so we try to be pretty close to the people. So we are here as well to be the first international team to be part of the people.
Okay, awesome. And then for Gerald, the importance for you, especially to say we're bringing development football in Zimbabwe, because it's not that big when it comes to development football. Youth international tournaments, obviously not doing enough justice for the country in terms of, with the ban that they suffered, with the interference and so forth. What was the decisive factor for you to say I'm bringing Real Betis to Zimbabwe, and why Zimbabwe?
Thank you. Yeah, I think, regardless of many challenges that any ecosystem may face, we always have to look into the future with great hope. And that's the same hope that we carry, that one day we will have Zimbabwe and many other African countries that think football is a hobby for some kids because they're not really exercising the right business space when it comes to football. So taking that decision, obviously, it was about seeing the brands like La Liga, how commercially they are strong, what can we learn from Real Betis. Africa needs to learn, and this is what we are constantly, every speaker who has come on the stage has been emphasizing the point of learning new things. So you can't learn if you don't have the right teacher. So you can't compete with the big brands in Europe. So we have to learn from them and then take the same model and improve our structures. Then at some point in the future, our kids will also understand that football is a big sector that pays very well, and it's not just a hobby. And also it changes the dynamics when it comes to the parents themselves. The parents also begin to see that they're raising kids that can actually enjoy a great career from football. So yes, we have our challenges in Zimbabwe, but the most important thing, everyone has got challenges. Everyone around the world has got challenges, and we have to look to the future with hope. And the decision starts with us, the leaders who lead today. So I think we have got great hope, and hopefully, of course, we look forward to the ban being lifted very soon, so we're able to enjoy some international football.
Definitely. That's beautiful. This poses one question, Marcos, the fan base. So we know that African continent has provided so many players for the La Liga. To mention a few, Samuel Eto'os, they went ashore and they did very well. So we've seen that La Liga right now, they've created, good content, especially with regards to the African MVP Player Award, the La Liga Loca show as well. What's the vision behind that in terms of, getting through to the fans?
Well, our strategy, we call it global. We have a global approach and we implement it locally. Yeah. Because every fan or almost every country has a different way of consuming football and La Liga. So we cannot try, and I think we'd be dumb if we try to implement the same projects in general in Japan than in Burundi or in Brazil and in Sweden, because the people there are completely different. So that's why another of the reasons for us to be here. to listen and to try to understand how the African fans want to engage with La Liga. And these two projects that you mentioned, I think we're very proud of them because of the results and also because they are pioneering projects. The MVP, the African MVP award, we were thinking about how can we raise the profile of those players and also empower the fans for them to choose who they prefer. And we got over 33,000 votes, and it was massive. And last season was the first time that we implemented it. And now we created La Liga Loca Africa, which is a magazine show from African people to African fans. Because I think we need to discuss the African players and in a way that the African fans can identify themselves with. It's not the same as maybe an English commentator or a Spanish commentator. I think we all relate to what we know and to your colleagues, to your countrymen or from your region. That's what we tried. And we already launched 2 episodes and we are over 300,000 views in both of them. So how it's being welcomed is being massive all across the continent. So I think localizing content and to create these projects that allow us to deliver La Liga to every fan in every corner of the continent, I think for now it's proven the right strategy, and that's the path that we want to continue exploring.
So it's interesting enough because for La Liga as an organization, it's more or less easier to expand and to get into that space where they try to get to their fans, But for clubs, it must be difficult because you're competing with for fan base. You're competing with top teams like your Real Madrid, your Barcelona, So how does now Espanyol look to interact with their fans, just to get the brand visibility out there?
I think, and I mentioned it before with the colleagues that we are talking, I think that if you have a good product or a good service, you never have to be scared of competitors. So we know that Barca, Madrid, they are global brands that they are recognized like worldwide. But I think that, as I mentioned, locally we are a local club, and I think that when we go somewhere and we talk to them and they know Espanyol, most of them, they already become like close to the team because I think that we have strong values and I think we have as well knowledge to change that is very important for the local. So I think that Barca and Madrid, they have La Liga and the small clubs as well to be recognized, but I think that we can compete with them in other things. Obviously, they have bigger players, they have big brands, but I think that we could work in a more closer way than them. So as I mentioned to grow here and to get a big fan base here, we are going to employ a local agency to create specific content, but as well probably we are avoiding just one-shot events, so we want to be close here, we want to work in a sustainable way alongside the season. And we are already exploring further opportunities to bring Espanyol closer to the South African fans. Like, for example, bringing our women's team, which is one of the most historicals and the first women's team in La Liga. So to bring it here at a time that for South Africa is as well very focused on developing the women's football. So we try to do like all the things that the big teams, because they already have a big brand, they don't try to do.
Yeah, I mean, while we're on that one, obviously the huge fan base also comes in a form of development. So obviously the importance of now La Liga setting that footprint in terms of setting up an academy in South Africa, how big is that and how influential will that be in terms of the fan base?
For us to have an academy here is crucial. So I think it would be critical for a team that like Espanyol that is very focused on grassroots development to miss a big opportunity like this. Like Marcon is mentioned, Africa is growing very quickly. But as important as having an academy here, it is to have caring partners like Buma. It's a company that is giving bursaries to 3/4 of the children that we have in the academy. That includes transport, clothing, education, and feeding. So I think that if we do not have companies like Buma, that they are involved in this process and they help us to develop the community, it's going to be quite hard for us to create a sustainable program of academies in South Africa. And it's important not to forget that the academies here are not just on football. So we do not develop only footballers, we develop but future citizens as well.
Yeah. I mean, now, Gerald, the popularity of Real Betis, because I know they just won early this year, the second Copa del Rey in history.
Yeah.
And they're not doing bad, honestly, sitting sixth on the log as well. And they boast quite a number of players, and most of them African descendant as well. I mean, William Carvalho and Nabil Fekir, to mention a few. But the popularity of it when we talk about the fan base, more especially in the Southern Hemisphere, Zimbabwe in particular, how influential is this relationship going to be to grow the fan base?
Thank you. Yeah, so when we started the project, we started in 2020. 2020, of course, we're in COVID. Actually, Betis was fighting for relegation that time, Because, so we had signed the MOUs. I think we had done the announcement, and I was now making a call thinking, we are going to be leading a project of a team that has just been relegated. So it was basically 80% of the players who are now playing today. But my point is that the expansion from Real Betis side, us as then regional partners of the club, we're able then firstly to understand the sporting project of the club first. So the next season they got Manuel Pellegrini, a highly reputable coach, and then we signed a few players to add on to what already was existing, and then Betis began to start winning games. Yeah. So now, as a partner, when you're now pushing the brand, trying to get it commercially stronger in this region, firstly, the team has to also win in the pitch, because, I mean, from what you're saying now, that you talk of Real Madrid and Barcelona, so from a brand power, already Madrid and Barcelona are already winning. So now, trying to grow the brand now, and the team is also losing and fighting relegation doesn't really make good sense to the market. But the good thing is that for the past 2-3 seasons, we've finished in the top 5. We are playing European football. The team is playing exciting football. We've beat Barcelona at their home ground last season. So this then allows the fans to open up when we are now promoting the brand Betis. And also in my country, Zimbabwe, this is the first international academy that has got an direct association with the country, from every high level, from government to the Spanish embassy. We have got the fantastic support from the ambassador, from the embassy, everybody, which is very key and very important. So if the government, the public, and you've got all the stakeholders that are for the brand, because they appreciate what's coming, what Betis is bringing to our country, the skills, the expertise, the knowledge, the model that all the Premier League clubs then have to follow. So that becomes easy. The Zimbabwean champions right now, we have got FC Platinum. Yeah. They already also are now in a partnership with Real Betis. They all wear green and white, which was a fantastic match for them. But my point is that becomes easy when the team is winning. The commercial department is pushing to grow the brand, and the sporting project of the club is also winning its games. Then the whole country then warms up to such performances. So yes, there has been work that has been done, but I think the two have to complement each other: the commercial side of the club and the sporting project of the team in La Liga. So far so good. I think there's room for improvement, especially in this region.
Awesome.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
As Jerry was saying, the success of the team is incredible. Obviously, it helps a lot. But 3 years ago, we experienced that we got relegated after 30 years playing in the first division. Hopefully, you don't have to experience that. But we noticed that in the international academies, we didn't notice that much. So we didn't lose players, and they were still liking us. And I think that if you work in a local way, the first team, they still feel it that is quite far, so they care more about the local results than what the team is doing. Obviously, it helps a lot. More like I work in the marketing department, so it's completely changed the game. But I think that for the international academies, I think the game can still go despite the team is not performing so well. And I think that is quite important to separate this, because many times in the clubs we don't have the influence to impact in the sporting results. So we have to keep doing our part and do the best for us.
I see now the two teams are bringing the rivalry here, so I'll let the league intervene actually. So, I mean, the importance of the commercial partnerships. I see now La Liga partnered obviously with local brands like Hollywood Bets. You know, how important is that, and what role do they play within the structures?
For us, our regional and local commercial partners, those are the ones that allow us to keep going, to keep assisting the clubs, to keep working in the communities, to keep developing projects in every country, and finding brands like Hollywood Bets that we share the same values, and every time that we sit on the table together, a lot of good ideas come. It's fun, it's entertaining, and we got to activate over 100 times together in the last 2 years and a half since we started the partnership just before the COVID outbreak. So we can only say thank you to those brands because allow us to then go to Angola and work with Petro Luanda to consulting for them, and then going to Zambia and doing the same with Sanako, and then to Tanzania, and then working with a Janga club, trying to work together, learn from each other, and try to raise the level of their management in the clubs. Yeah. And then also, I believe this is also important for the clubs. Now, we do have Espanyol and Betis in this round table, but then you have Barça in Lusaka. You have also Celta de Vigo in South Africa. Now, maybe next year we can start our own La Liga in Africa with their academies. Who knows? There's already 4. So we can maybe organize a little tournament. So having them coming, because at the end, we want to be the representatives to some extent. So whenever the clubs come to the continent, they have the information, they have the business intelligence, they have the support from La Liga delegates and the office for them to feel comfortable. So I love when Sergi comes or Betis visits Gerald, that we want them to feel at home from the very beginning. And that's also part of our role as La Liga representatives, because we must not forget that we're here to help them grow. At the end, you can admire La Liga, you can respect La Liga, but you're going to pick your team. Yeah. You're going to be an Espanyol fan, you're going to be a Betis fan, you're going to be a Zaragoza fan, then you will suffer. But you can still be one of them.
Suffer with us too.
I mean, to step in on that one, these collaborations, do they benefit the clubs? I mean, I do get it in terms of brand exposure and visibility, but do they somehow benefit all individuals with regards to like financially with all these collabs?
Yes, because as La Liga, we are an association of clubs. Yeah. We are composed by the 42 in the first and second division, and we are a non-profit organization. So everything that comes in from TV rights, from commercial, and many different projects that are revenue streams for La Liga, licenses, etc., comes to the same, let's say, pocket, and that gets distributed to the clubs. And we, for example, we just announced a few months ago the La Liga Boost project, Boost La Liga. That is basically a deal with an investment fund that we distribute in almost €2 billion to the clubs for them to grow in infrastructures, also in HR and their management, and also just a tiny 15% that they can allocate to players. But the idea with this deal is to boost the growth of the clubs. So what it might take 15, 20 years, we want them to achieve it in 3-5 years. At the end, my mission and our mission is to assist them as much as possible and to support them. We are here to collaborate with every single club.
Yeah. Now coming back to development football, Sergi, the importance of connecting the African continent and Spanish, because there's certain players obviously who left Africa and played for Espanyol. For me, as a goalkeeper, I always think about one person, Carlos Kameni. He has always been, you know, when you look at Carlos Kameni, you look at Espanyol, obviously. But how important is it to have that connection between the two continents and to see more players? What are we now going to see from Espanyol, trying to make sure that the pipeline still continues of exporting players from Africa to Espanyol?
Thanks for the question. Great guy, Kameni, by the way. He's awesome. And obviously, not only Kameni, we had as well Nkono, who was a big legend. We had for half season Samuel Eto'o, and we have Moroccan players right now. So, and I think that the African players, from my perspective, I think they have a much more recognition than other football players around the world.
Yeah.
So they are like proper idols. So they have an impact that is incredible. So as I said, I am a marketing and manager and commercial guy. So for me to grow in a country where you have a player like them, like it makes my work way easier. So in order to develop talent over there, or to have programs or for commercial purposes, it is very, 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 very helpful. But for Espanyol, that talent identification is vital for us. So finding talent is important no matter where it comes from. Yeah. So for us, the South African Academy is equal to the other academies that we can have, and we work in the country the same way that we do in other countries, because we are open to the whole world.
Yeah. All right. Now, Gerald, obviously now you mentioned stakeholders playing a very important role. How big is that role, especially with regards to creating those opportunities or exposure for now the young ones or most aspiring footballers who want to go across our shores?
Yeah, I think it's about having impact. That's the most important thing. You obviously want to grow with a brand, and then have impact in whatever market or space that you're operating in. But you have to obviously find a way to accommodate every stakeholder. So obviously you've got the member associations, you've got the government in that country, and then you've got also the embassy. So from our side, I think, like I said earlier on, that they've all played an important part. And also not forgetting La Liga, because Marcos and the office here in Johannesburg, they've been present. They are always coming to Zimbabwe. So that gives investor confidence to anyone that wants to know about Rio Betis, that wants to know about the project itself. So sometimes the brand cannot work alone. The brand needs stakeholders, and every stakeholder needs to have a clear role in where we want to go. And obviously they play their part. And I think we're very grateful at this stage that everybody who is supposed to play a part for us to settle our feet in Zimbabwe, they've all played their part. Now that becomes easier if the embassy is on our side and they understand the vision of the club and what we want to do. Remember, many players want to go to Spain. Yeah. So regarding, we also get help as far as assistance with visa processing, which is not easy in many countries, but from our side, because they understand who we are and what we want to do, that also becomes easier to forge those relations. And and also we are culturally connecting. You know, it's important that sometimes it's not just the name. Yeah. We also need to prepare the players to the world that they have an ambition to live in. So we also have like Spanish classes in the academy in Zimbabwe. So imagine all these budding youngsters. They don't then have to learn Spanish when they go to Europe, maybe for one day a trial or something. They already are growing in a culture. So that just allows everybody to integrate. The most important thing is learning new cultures, raising champions that have cultural diversity, and and just giving every talent a chance to explore themselves. So I think I've answered you in full. Yeah.
Coming back to you, Sergio, when he mentions that these are the challenges that one thinks about, especially a huge cultural shock for a player when they have to move from Africa to Spain. What are the challenges that you face, especially in terms of identifying talent? And I'll be specific, especially in South Africa, where you have an academy, and much hasn't been heard about players moving from South Africa going to Espanyol, maybe for an assessment or probably for a contract. You know, so what are the challenges that you're facing, be it the technical ability or the mental state of the player? Good
question. I think that nowadays most of the scouting systems are based in data, it's quite difficult. Now we are starting to work locally here, but it's quite difficult to to find the talent in the early stages. So for the club, I think that is crucial, because if you identify the talent in the late stages, probably you can afford a talent, or you have missed a really big opportunity. So I think that little by little, the challenge that the continent and the country specifically is facing is to be able to provide with data to the scouters around the European or around the world the teams, so they can bring the teams in an early stage for us. And as Jerry was mentioned, I think that football has got like a big power to have a positive impact in the society. So it can help the little children to learn and develop talent without being conscious that they are being learned, that they are being taught. Because as he said, they come to play football, but they are learning Spanish at the same time. Yeah. So I think that is the power and the beauty of football. And right here, as I said, in South Africa, I think that our challenge here is as well to be able to identify the talent at the early stages, to bring them and try to develop push it in a harder way to make the most of the youngsters here.
I told you I'd let the league intervene, so I see now Marcos wants to say something on that
Hey,
one.
Yeah, because they're not saying it, but this is also about education, values, growing people, because they're investing in the future of our societies. So that's very important for everyone. And also, I think more or less over 300 players are sponsoring their academies, if you put the two together, only these two clubs. And that's 300 kids that are getting exposure to the best, or one of the best coaching systems in the world, and in a way that they wouldn't be able because of their humble backgrounds. Yeah. So Betis and Espanyol are providing the best coaching that they can, and a model that works, and it's proven very well in the last decades for those kids that, if not, they will be left behind in their growth as individuals and as potential football players.
Awesome. Now, talking about diversity, obviously, Marcos, we've just heard that you've partnered with the KZN Sports Arts and Culture Department as well. Tell us more about that one.
Well, first I have to say thank you to my friend Amanda. We're very excited about this project because we're not only about growing La Liga or growing the clubs. Also, we want to grow football everywhere in the world, because we understand also that if we work on growing football, at the end we'll end up growing La Liga, like a subsidiary objective. But football has this power, and for us it's having a responsibility. And we're very lucky to find the MEC and KZN department that they have this vision that we share. So we've been discussing for months, and we wanted to launch this project where we're going to focus on the grassroots football in the province to work with the kids. Indeed, yesterday and today, part of the team, they were having inspirational and educational and about values talks with over 150 kids from the province. That's just the very beginning. We're going to bring out coaches, we're going to work with local coaches to upgrade their skill, to transfer skills to them, and many other projects that are coming along. So, and that's not about us. This is about the KZN and the future of the KZN people, because we want to work with the youth.
Okay, perfect. So now, Marcos, actually, Sergio, on this one, now going back to the content side of things, obviously that includes brand visibility and so forth. What are you looking to do in terms of expansion? More especially, yes, we know with setting up academies, it's important. However, but spreading the word out there with regards to Espanyol in terms of game activations, fan parks, or viewings on the TV side of things.
As I said, the idea and the goal is to bring content to everyone, because there are still like a lot of people who are not able to watch the La Liga matches. We are on the way to get that, but until then, we try to, as I said, bring Espanyol closer to the fans, so they know a little bit about our history. That many times we forget that we are one of the historical clubs in Spain. We are founders of La Liga, so many times wherever we go, they know, or they have started to follow the matches in the Spanish league like the last 15 or 10 years. So we haven't been doing great those years, so we are not very popular team like now it's doing Betis, that they are doing very, very, very well. So we have to come up on the table the things that we have done and the good things that we've done in the past, that we are doing now, but maybe they don't have such an impact that winning titles or winning trophies. So we have to try to work specifically to bring this kind of content to the people, so where we are more recognized for the things that we are doing well and we have done well in the past.
Before I throw the last closing remarks for both of you.
We are friends though, eh?
Who's winning the Copa del Rey? Because I saw you guys have already gone past that phase. But we'll park that one. I'll come back to you guys.
For sure it will be a Liga team, so Marcos will be happy.
So, Marcos, do you see La Liga hosting development tournaments?
Definitely. This is something that we've been discussing yesterday, and as we said before, we do have already a few clubs here. And I don't know, we have also La Liga Promises, which is a tournament where we gather all the 20 academies from the first division for a tournament. Yeah. This project or this tournament is very famous in Spain. The likes of Iniesta, Ander Herrera, Gerard Piqué, those players have played that tournament. So the level is very high. And if we do have African academies, I think 1+1, we must organize a tournament to celebrate the presence of the clubs and also to have the possibility to compete against local clubs and to celebrate football with the kids.
All right. And then Espanyol, are we looking to see more collaborations with local professional soccer teams?
I think that our expertise here, I think that we can learn a lot from them. So this has to be like a knowledge exchange. I think we have a lot to learn from them, and we can bring the knowledge that we are applying in Spain. So it have to be an exchange, and obviously we are open to do collaborations and to grow. Obviously they have the fan base that we can bring as well to our team, and as Marcos said, they will be supporting here the local team that they have, but we want to try that the Espanyol, sorry for Betis, but we want to try the Espanyol is the international team in the heart, so after the local teams.
I mean, Gerald, for you, with the partnership that you already have with the Platinum FC, how are you looking to continue with that passage to make sure that at least not from the commercial side of things alone, but as well as pushing the players, making sure that we push them abroad as well?
Yeah, I think the most important thing now, we need to have some few clubs and few opportunities, players now traveling to Spain to bring the dream more closer, to experience something new. So I think that's the next stage. The next stage now is to get a few players. The academy already is traveling to Spain in December for 7 days, and now we also look forward to get the clubs also experience the same thing. The partners, the commercial partners, they've already traveled to watch big games, VIP hospitality and experiences. So we look forward to expand, but now the most important thing is we need more delegations traveling to our head office.
Awesome. Gentlemen, I wouldn't leave you without the closing remarks first from La Liga as well.
Well, again, thank you very much, and I think it's very exciting that we have the clubs and La Liga in Africa. Our message is that we're here to work in every country to keep developing projects and to enjoy football, because I think we can only say thank you for being able to work within the football industry, which is so much fun, entertainment, and also you get to work with the kids, which is very fulfilling because you invest in and you're working with the future of our societies.
Awesome.
And from my side, I want to say thank you again. At the same time, Marcos, every time I've been here in Africa, I've been treated like incredibly well. I feel like at home, people is like so warm. And I really look forward to keep working here and developing talent and making a big impact in the society.
Yeah, for us, World Football Summit is a special place for Betis, for their project here in Africa. Without World Football Summit, we wouldn't be where we are. And we look forward to the next edition, and it's quite an honor being here. And thank you to World Football Summit, Jan and Marian. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right. There we have it, guys. Thank you so much to our audience as well, and for the organizers. We're really grateful, and we're wishing you guys nothing but the best. And thank you so much. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Off you go. Impeccable conversation. And I think what I sense from this, by the way, is just opportunities. Opportunities are there for every stakeholder in this relationship, in this conversation. We heard from Marcos telling us about the various, those kind of wins that La Liga have made early on already in this space. The African MVP award, very smart. You know, it's a way of profiling the players and giving the audience a say. So not just raising the profile, but empowering the fans. La Liga Loca Africa, I love that idea. And just tailoring it. Because yes, you could have an English commentator, a Spanish commentator trying to reach out to that fan, but it just doesn't connect. You have to reach people where they are in the way that they want to be reached. So localizing that content, allowing them to deliver La Liga to every fan, every corner of the continent, that seems to have proved the right strategy. And for Sergi saying what the benefit is from Espanyol, talent identification is important, especially when you've got your big brother from the camp now looking over your shoulder. You know, it's hard to compete, but how do you do it? You try and find that talent and identify it here. So having that academy in South Africa really helps. And African players are like proper idols. They have an impact which is incredible. And Carlos Khomeini is awesome, which is great to hear. What a servant he was to Espanyol over those. I think it was 8 years that he was there with more than 200 appearances for Los Pericos. But important insights there from Gerald as well is you can't just rely on the brand. The Betis brand is incredibly popular. I know this is and I suppose someone who's in the UK who receives La Liga and sees how it is received and what fans like, and when they explore La Liga, who they side with, Betis are an incredibly popular club. But you also need the support of the member association, the government, the embassies. They've all played their part and they understood the vision of the club and what they want to do and supported it. And that in turn leads to investor confidence. It's a kind of a circle that is fulfilling itself, which is a really nice way of working. And I love, you know, how they try and bring the La Liga and Spanish culture to Zimbabwe, giving, you know, those young players Spanish lessons. They're already growing in the culture. This is a word we've heard a lot over the last day and a half, culture, because it's a value exchange. It's about learning from each other, not just the football on the pitch, on the training ground. The most important thing is learning new cultures, raising new champions who have cultural diversity. You think of the world we're living in right now, it's at times a very fragmented world where sometimes we don't understand each other very well. So why not raise young men, young women in this way where they really do celebrate each other's differences and points of difference and try and connect with each other in a better way. So I really enjoyed that conversation. It was a lovely tone of conversation as well, moderated brilliantly by Brighton.